Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Streamlining Year-End Financial Close and Multi-Entity Consolidations in D365 Finance. I'm Aaron Klein, the Marketing Director here at Avantiico. Now, today's session is all about helping finance teams simplify and accelerate one of the most demanding parts of the job, the period close. We'll walk through how Avantiico's embedded solution, AMCS, brings automation, structure, and visibility to closing processes within D365 Finance, especially for organizations managing multi-entity environments and complex financial structures. You'll learn how AMCS can help you automate multi-entity consolidation and intercompany postings, streamline intercompany eliminations, accelerate your period end close, and improve accuracy and reduce manual effort across your finance team. Now, we've got a great session planned today, including demo, some real-world examples, and plenty of time for Q&A with our featured speaker, D365 finance consultant, Yannick Schuler. But before we dive in, just here's a quick look at the other webinars we have coming up. So first, on July 10th, 10 a.m. Pacific, unlock smarter budget planning with D365 Finance. Learn how to get more out of D365's native budgeting module to improve planning, forecasting accuracy, and financial decision-making across your organization. Then July 29th, 10 a.m. Pacific, join us for session 4 of our D365 Finance and Supply Chain Licensing and Security Enforcement series, going over the November 1st licensing block to unlicensed D365 Finance and Supply Chain users. Also looking into Azure telemetry data to right-size your license assignments and what's new in the 1044 update around user governance and security data. Finally, on August 26th, 10 a.m. Pacific, join us for AI-powered reporting and planning with Microsoft Fabric. Explore how Microsoft Fabric is transforming analytics and planning with integrated data flows, AI capabilities, and Copilot integration. You'll find the registration links for all upcoming events and our full on-demand webinar library in the chat here shortly and available anytime on avantiico.com. And then one last note, right, as we go through the presentation, feel free to pop any questions you have into the chat. We'll do our best to answer them throughout the presentation, or we'll cover them at the open Q&A at the end. And with that, Yannick, you want to take it away?
Well, thanks, Aaron, and welcome from my side. It is good to have you all here today. Aaron was so kind to already introduce me. I'm Yannick Schuler. I'm part of the finance team here at Avantiico and also part of the AMCS team. So I'm very happy to have you all here today. And Aaron kind of gave a brief overview of what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to look at some year-end financial close problems, some issues that we've seen that customers do have, some common pain points maybe within D365, and then we're going to introduce AMCS, see how some of those issues are getting solved, and then also hop into the demo to give you some examples of how AMCS works. All right, so with that being said, let's look at some common problems that we see some customers face. At the end of the year, for your year-end close, what we see customers complain about is usually threefold. The first one is, and that's the most common issue that we see, is data accuracy and the entire reconciliation process. So those seem to be persistent pain points across a wide array of customers, not necessarily industry specific. But what we see is that a lot of finance teams, they struggle with incomplete reports, some error handling within the reconciliation, and then some inefficient data integrations. So we see a lot of those issues stem from fragmented systems and then also inconsistent data entries. So the problem with that is, when your reports are inaccurate or incomplete, it kind of undermines the entire trust into those reports, meaning that you can't really make decisions based on those or even delay decision making. So that just hinders your growth, your agility, basically, as an organization. The second point, and that's something that we've seen, more commonly being introduced, is the lack of automation. The year-end close has always been a very labor-intensive process. So the issue that we see is accountants being tied up with manual work. You have a lot of tedious work that is just, takes a lot of time and is not very efficient. The issue with that is as soon as you introduce human error in this, you might face some audit risks or some compliance issues. So what we see more and more is companies pushing for automation. That's no secret at all. And then last, system latency. That might be an issue that is not very common across different industries, but what we see is especially retail companies, e-commerce companies that already have a high transaction volume, they struggle even more during financial close. So with that being said, reports are getting delayed. Again, you have less agility. And that just becomes an issue even for everyday work besides or next to the closing cycle. So all of these problems, what they basically end up in is that you as a finance team, you as an organization face longer closing cycles. You tie up your accountants, you have delays in reporting, and again, issues or reduced agility within your decision-making process. Then again, I touched a little bit on this in the automation piece. What we see is you have a very error-prone data import and reconciliation process, meaning that companies, face increased risk in the audit procedure. We have had clients with compliance issues. And then also what we see is companies kind of face their ceiling, meaning that, you get tied up in closing cycles and you can't really scale up because what is going to happen if you add multiple legal entities to this? So, at Avantiico, we've had clients with all of these problems, and what we found is that our advanced multi-company solution actually solves the majority of those issues. And before I kind of go into how we solve them, I'd like to give a quick introduction to AMCS, or Advanced Multi-Company Solution, and all the features that this entails. Given the topic of today, we're not going to jump into all of these functionalities. That would just be too much for today. I will go over the entirety of the functionalities at the very end. So if you do find some of these features quite captivating, then I'm more than happy to schedule a call with you and jump into those features in more detail. But what I am going to talk today about is those features that you can see on there. And we're not going to touch budgeting very much, but what we're going to talk about, the core, is our super journal. So we saw lack of automation, error-prone handling when importing journals. This is what our super journal at the core targets. So what we have developed at Avantiico based on customer experiences that have multiple legal entities, hundreds of legal entities. We developed a global staging table, that helps you import and approve and post journals with one single click across multiple legal entities. And with that being said, we also touch or improve integration work as well. So in a demo, we will also see how we integrate not only payroll data or expense management, POS data. We can also incorporate different ERPs. But we've had different use cases where we automatically pull in data from third-party systems and post them automatically within D365. So this is obviously not available out of the box. but I will showcase here in a minute or in a few minutes how this is going to work with AMCS. We also have some global workflow that we set on top of our super journal. So we do support local workflows, but if you do have some centralized accounting teams, then we also work with a workflow that sits on top of all of your legal entities. And then last but not least, reporting functionalities. As you know, D365 comes with a multitude of reports out of the box. Now, the issue that we sometimes see with customers is that those reports are not available across multiple companies. Now, what we did is we taken out of the box reports and inquiries and extended them to be available across all of your legal entities. I will showcase 3 different reports, analyses, and inquiries that will kind of highlight this, and you will see how you'll be able to draw reports and get enhanced visibility across all of your legal entities. Okay. Before we jump into the demo, kind of tying this back, the functionalities that AMCS entails and the issues that you potentially face when facing your year-end close. We saw data accuracy and reconciliation and lack of automation. I kind of lumped those together just because the functionalities of the super journal and the integration, they attack both of those issues. Now, we can automate your import process and automate the journal posting across legal entities, which is a huge step up from the DMF framework, where your accountants have to go into each legal entity, import journals and approve them and post them in every single legal entity. That, of course, is a very error-prone process. Not to say that there's never an issue with imports, but what we also see is that people or customers that use DMF, if there is a faulty journal, the problem is the entire import fails. The issue is you won't see what the actual error is. It will just tell you that there is an error. Now, if you have in a journal that entails 10,000 lines, you're going to have to go and walk through all of those journal lines and figure out where that error actually is. With AMCS, you have a dedicated error log. So if there are errors within your import, we actually show you what the error is, where the error is, and give you the possibility of fixing it within the system. And I will showcase that here in a minute as well. System latency, we talked about that. Now, we support journal imports and we support batch jobs. So through double threading, it will not affect your day-to-day business. And then ultimately, long closing cycles, delayed reporting, and manual imports is solved by all of those features that you see on here. So you have enhanced visibility through your reports that are globally visible. You have shorter closing cycles because of the automation piece that I've introduced. And this will actually help you scale in the future, add more legal entities, and just puts you on a path of expansion. All right. With that being said, let's take a look on how this actually looks within the system. With that, we are going to jump into our demo environment. This is your typical Contoso environment. It's a D365 demo environment. What I want to highlight is that AMCS sits within a module in D365. So if you decide to install it, it will actually be managed through feature management, and your users will never notice it's actually not part of the original Microsoft solution. So if I click right here, what I can see is those are the menu items that come out of the box. We're currently working on breaking this up into 3 different menu items, but for now it sits within one module. Now, again, all of those Menu items are managed through feature management. So if you decide to purchase different packages, you'll have the possibility to turn some of these off and on. So users won't get confused if there's certain functionalities that you do not use. And first, I would like to walk you through the super journal functionality. So what I will do is showcase how we import journals, how the global staging table looks like, and what automation pieces you can actually use. So for that, I will go to Letter Journal Imports, which is our global staging table. And this showcases every single import that has been taken place ever since this started. So it is not just in the legal entity I'm currently in. I'm in my Chinese legal entity, but those are the imports across all of my different legal entities. So within this, I already have certain information. I have my journal import number. I have the journal name. The journal name is important because I can set up certain default behavior that's attached to that journal name. If you are more interested in the little bit more technical part, I'm also happy to set up a demo and show you how to configure it in certain areas to make it perfectly aligned with your system. You have the description, and then most importantly, the status. I'll go into detail what those statuses mean here in a minute, but just know we have 5 different statuses that all mean different processing steps. You can see the timestamp, who imported it, and then here in the back you see errors. I will import a journal that actually has an error so we can see how the error log looks like and what you can do from there on. Now, I will walk through the import process. The thing is, what you got to remember is we can automate this process by, with a batch import. Now for demo purposes, I will walk through this manually. But I will also show you how you can automate this. Again, important is what journal name I pick a general journal, and what you can see is that there's some default lines filled out here. The automatic processing piece is what is important here. This will basically dedicate how far my import will go. Now I have 5 different steps that I can follow. I have my open step. The open step is just an import into my global staging table. Nothing else happens. There's no checking the lines that will go through. There's no journal created. It won't be transferred through different legal entities. It's just a basic import into this global staging table. And from then on, I can further the process. Now, check lines will already go through a first check. It will check if my fiscal periods are open, if all my dimensions are correct, and so on and so forth. Now, if I want this to go to transfer lines, this will actually create a journal. And if I have, 20 lines, 20 journal lines, and 5 different legal entities, what will happen is that it will create those journals within my 5 legal entities and transfer them to there. We can, again, work with your local workflow. So if you have workflows set up within those respective legal entities, we can automatically submit it to that, and it will run through the approval process and then get posted eventually. Or we can set up a global workflow that sits on top of this global staging table and then runs through that approval process. The 4th step is an optional step. We have a validation. That's the classic D365 validation process. We also just introduced a simulate posting. So if you want to see what effect this journal has, then you can simulate the posting as well, or you can automatically submit it to post. For demo purposes, I will go through the checkline process right now. For this, I'll select my file, and I will select this. Luckily, this is already labeled error, so I know there is an error in there. And I will showcase you how this is going to work. Again, I have also the possibility to submit it to a batch job. If I know it's a large file, I can submit it to a batch. For demo purposes, I will not do that. Now the import process begins, and I had checked lines selected. I find this import here at the bottom. What I can see is, the status is still open. Why is it still open? Because it found an error in here. Now, if I click on this, I'll get the detailed transaction that are in here. I can see there's 2 errors. And I can see in terms of what those journal lines are, I can see there is a transaction within my German company, my US company, and then there seems to be an intercompany transaction between the US legal entity and the German legal entity. Now, as I said previously, I do have an error log that is attached to this. And for this, I just come right here and it'll tell me, what the error is. It's company line 4, the dimension D4 is not valid. So there's 2 possibilities what I can do. I can either go into my Excel spreadsheet, fix it there, erase this journal import and upload it again. Or I also have the possibility to come into the dimension piece, see all of the information that is auto-populated here, come in here and change the item group, within my company, my D365 environment. All right. I also have a second arrow that is in this as well. Let's see. Let's import a second one that has no arrow, so we can check it all the way through. We'll check lines. Now we'll use this one right here. It has no arrow. Upload it, process it now, check the lines to see if everything's okay, and import it again. From then, we can go ahead and transfer it to my different legal entities. Again, I can double check my status right here. It says lines checked, so everything seems to be fine. What I can do now is transfer it to my respective legal entities. This is where we set up some security as well. So if you've seen at the very beginning, I have system admin rights. You can kind of tell by all the workspaces that are available to me. So I also do have access to the German company and the US company. Now, if a user does not have access to them, he or she would not be able to submit this. But if I click OK, those journals will be created and transferred to its respective legal entity. Now, once that step has happened, what I can do is I can review this within my global staging table. The status has changed to transferred. So what I can do is go through the validation process or post it or simulate the post. So I will do this, again, only if I have the security rights. But once I post this, what I can do is go into the different journals and kind of see it from a company perspective. So what we'll see here in a minute, as you remember, I'm currently in my Chinese company. So I created those journals and transferred them to the German company and the US company. And I can now see that they're posted. And if I click onto those details, what I can see is the different voucher numbers, who posted it, badge number. And if I click on open the journal, you go into the transaction details, what it will actually do is it will take me to my German company. So I have the possibility to, have visibility throughout all my legal entities and then have a quick link into those transactions into the specific legal entities as well. So giving me a central overview of everything. Okay. Now we've talked about the super journal. We talked about the arrow log, how it distinguishes to the DMF, the standard within D365. What I would like to do now is go to review some of the inquiries and reports that we have done. So again, kind of recapping, we've taken the majority of reports and inquiries that are available in D365 and expanded them to be available and accessible on a multi-company basis. So what I would like to review here is the multi-company trial balance. And, this becomes important, for companies that, have different legal entities, so they can kind of summarize all ledger accounts and review the credits and debits and see or helps them verify it at a specific point in time, especially when closing. So what you can see here is what we've done. You have a multi-selection field of all of the legal entities that are set up in your tenant. So what I can do is select all of the ones that I want to review. What I also can do is set up certain templates. So in this case, we have all of our US entities set up. You can set it up by financial dimensions. It really doesn't matter. But if I select this right here, all of my US entities are selected. The only important thing here is that the fiscal calendars need to be lined up. It doesn't matter if the chart of accounts are equal, but just the fiscal calendars need to be set up. I can also look at what financial dimensions I want to show. And if I click on show balances, if I have set my date correctly, it will actually spit out the balances based on the main account. Now, what I can see here is all of those across all of my different legal entities. Now, this is helpful just because it gives you a better visibility across all of your legal entities. You can verify your debits and credits across your legal entities and makes it easier to check for errors and ensure completeness of all of your transactions. We've had a lot of customers that go into each of their legal entities, download the trial balance, and then combine them in one, and this just is a huge risk for errors. Now, the next report, and this is actually not an inquiry but a report. What I want to showcase is our vendor aging report. This is probably one of the most requested one, along with our customer aging report. So what we can do is list outstanding vendor invoices by due date. So this is quite important in the closing process, so we can ensure that all the liabilities are corrected and recorded in the correct period. So at the end of the day, you will have a complete audit trail of all of your payables. So again, same procedure. If I wanted to select certain multiple legal entities, I could. I can also create templates however I like. Now, what I can do is select the aging as off and balances as off. I can set up different currencies if it's in my accounting currency or in my reporting currency. And then I also have the possibility to include certain filters if I want to select certain vendors. What's also important is that I can run it in the background. If it's supposed to be large file, then I can enable batch processing, but I will just run this right now. And now while this is running, what I can also do is sort it based on transaction sum, and then also by legal entity. This is sorted by legal entity, and if I zoom in here, what I can see is all the vendor balances that are still open. And if I scroll down, USMF seems to have lots of, but I can see all of my US legal entities are compiled in one singular report. Okay, the last one that I want to show you in terms of reporting before we jump into the integration piece is the intercompany subledger reconciliation analysis. And let me jump into this. What I need to set up right here is my template name. It'll populate this and I can calculate it. Now, this is an analysis that does not come out of the box. That is something that we have created. And it comes with several advantages that I will showcase here in a second. But what we did was have certain vendor pairs and customer pairs in a certain legal entity on one currency. So what you can see is if they are in balance, this one seems to be the only one that is set up and in balance. But what the advantages are of setting this up at a subledger level is that I have settlement capabilities at my subledger level. And I also have the ability to shrink my chart of accounts. So instead of having a main account for, my vendor and customer pairing, what I can do is have it at a subledger account and subledger level, excuse me. And this certainly also gives me the ability to reconcile at the currency level as well. If I would want, I could also jump into all of the customer or vendor transactions that is entailed of this customer balance and have direct access into them as well. All right. What I will do now is showcase some of the integration capabilities that we do have. For that, I'll come in here. And I will go to Ledger Journal File Import Locations. And this is basically a setup for us to pull in files from different locations. As of right now, what we support is the Azure file storage, Azure containers, and SFTP sites. We're also working on to make this available for APIs. This should be done mid-July, something like that, within our next release, I believe. But what we can do is basically pull files from either of those locations, import them into our super journal, into the global staging table, and then automatically post them or submit them to workflow from here. So typical use cases for this, as I mentioned earlier, are payroll files. So if I do get a payroll file, let's see, from ADP or any other vendor, usually first of all, they don't come in D365 friendly import format. So what we can do is create a custom import template and map it so that it is compatible. But then also what happens is, especially if you do have workers across legal entities, your centralized accounting team needs to hop into each legal entity and post those So what we can do is, first of all, map the data within that file and then import it and transfer and post it across all of your legal entities, basically without you even knowing it's happening, unless you want to submit it through a workflow. We also see this happening with expense management. We see this a lot with POS data coming in, and we've also have connected ERPs through this as well. So all I need to do is set up my storage right here, where it's coming from, where it's pulling from, and what we have set up are two Power Automate workflows, excuse me, in the background that will first of all, this is my Azure file storage. So those two batch jobs, they will look in those locations that I've previously set up. And this is the inbound demo folder. So those batch jobs will run every 60 seconds and see, first of all, if I have dropped a file here. And then the second one will grab it and import it to its dedicated place. Now, what I will have to do here real quick is upload a file into this. And I will upload this file right here. And I will rename it. We go. Now that I upload it, the batch job will run every 60 seconds. So it will take probably around a minute until it will get fetched from this location and then automatically gets imported into my D365 super journal. I will refresh this and use this time to talk a little bit until those 60 seconds have passed. Then I will come over here into our global staging table. I'll select this, and it's not there yet. Maybe we'll give it another 20 seconds or so. But again, based on the default behavior that I've set up within my journal name, what happens is it gets either processed through one of those 5 steps. It's open, transferred, lines checked, or posted. See if it has gone through. Yep. It might be stuck somewhere in the pending journal imports, but the principle, what happens is that it gets submitted here and then submitted into the automatic processing steps. All right. So far, so good. This is everything I have prepped for the demo part. So I will now jump back into the presentation piece. And I would like to use this to talk a little bit about where we see a lot of the use cases. And I know today we've talked more so on the functional side, so how it can help you in your financial close process. What we've seen is that there's a lot of different use cases across multiple industries. So we have a lot of clients in the property management sector where there's, different legal entities based on residential buildings, office spaces, and other pieces of real estate. We've seen a lot of use cases within the franchise management area, where there's obviously lots of legal entities with different restaurants or stores and so on and so forth. So the use cases that we see there is the super journal, and then of course different integration pieces that feed into D365, and just managing those more efficiently and faster is one of AMCS primary goals. The last two things that I would like to mention here is what we've seen recently is a lot of renewable energy companies coming in. So they're having a lot of wind parks or solar parks somewhere that need to be fed into D365. And the same with ship companies that have lots of different vessels. So those are some great use cases that we see. And then, of course, mergers and acquisitions as well. Okay, in terms of timeline, that is a big question that we answer quite often just because of the quite a large array of functionalities. What we always see customers ask is, how long does it take to implement? And this is kind of an inflated version of our implementation timeline. But what you can see, it's a very, very small footprint. So it only takes our team, 1 or 2 weeks to actually get you going. And this includes trainings as well. So what we always do in terms of our implementation is pick out dedicated time to train your key users and users that will be working with it on a daily basis to make them familiar with the product. And if you see the fourth point down here, we are also in our subscription, we include custom imports. So if you do have import templates, if you do have integrations that need to be connected, then we have that included in your subscription as well. Now we do have different packages aligned. Now I will send out after this webinar the different information to that packaging, the different prices as well. Yeah, this is basically the implementation footprint. And again, it's very easily configured. It's very easily to get running, so the time to value is very, very good. Before we come to the questions, I promised you to kind of walk over some of the extra functionalities that we didn't cover in today's webinar. So if you are interested in talking a little bit deeper about those, we can certainly do that. We do have some enhanced intercompany functionalities. We also include financial tax and ledger settlement automations. And then also we have expedited legal entity creation. So instead of creating every legal entity by itself, we have the possibility to import and create legal entities, hundreds of legal entities at a time. This comes into play when you talk about franchisees or implementation periods. We can certainly accelerate that piece significantly. The same goes with data migration. So we do have dynamic mapping functionalities that'll help you cut your data transformation piece significantly. We have had cases where we cut data migration time by almost 90%. So that is certainly a booster for every implementation and a cost driver that helps the customer to go live quicker, but then also to cut costs. And last but not least, we also have enhanced budget functionalities. So allocation of budgets across departments, across legal entities, and enhanced approval workflows as well. So in case you are interested in some of those features, don't hesitate to reach out. We will set up a time and talk a little bit deeper into those topics. And yeah, this is all I've prepped for today. And I would love to answer some of your questions. I don't know if there's any in the chat. If there is, we can jump to those, or if you have some, you can also come off mute and ask me directly.
Awesome. Thanks, Yannick. Nothing in the chat at the moment, but just like you said, if you do have any questions you'd like to address to Yannick, you're welcome to come off mute, address him directly. We'll give a minute if anybody wants to do so. Otherwise, thank you so much for the time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again. Again, don't hesitate to reach out, even if you don't have a question right now. If you do have one later, you can email us or reach us through any of the social networks, and we're more than happy to help you or our clients. So thank you for your time, and yeah, see you at the next webinar.
Perfect. Thanks, Yannick. We'll be cleaning up this recording and sending it out to you before the end of the week. It takes a day or two to get through, but yeah, again, just like Yannick said, thank you so much for attending, and have a great rest of your Tuesday.
All right. Bye.